If I had to sum up today's video in a word, it would be childish. Adults enjoying things that were 100% intended to amuse children is actually completely fine with me 9 times out of 10. I am very easily entertained, so you got a singing snowman in a movie? Sign me up. I can't find this in a grown-up movie. But there is a really specific way in which certain people online consume content intended for children that is so very unhinged. And it's all coming to a head because Disney has announced a new live-action version of their classic movie Snow White, and let's just say people are not happy. Anyway, welcome. I'm D'Angelo, and I am your professor of superluminal music theory, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe I'm just broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. Regardless, in today's lecture, I thought we would look at none other than the Snow White controversy. I was never the biggest fan of princess movies growing up. You know, Dave and I, we're more so serious cinema connoisseurs like Pixar's Cars, but nevertheless, I do definitely have an opinion or two on the way Disney has decided to go with the story, so we're going to get into that as well. So this ill-fated Snow White live-action scenario has actually been bubbling under for years. There's this article from 2016 outlining Disney's plans to make the movie. Disney, of course, is notorious for these live-action remakes. You've got Aladdin, The Lion King, Lady and the Tramp, which I didn't even realize they had a live-action version of that, Mulan, Pinocchio, and who was going to tell me there was a live-action Peter Pan movie? I mean, I know that there are live-action Peter Pan movies, but I did not know about this one. And if that, along with The Little Mermaid, weren't enough for you, of course, we have Mufasa the Lion King, Snow White, Lilo and Stitch, Moana, Hercules, Bambi, Robin Hood, the Aristocats. Like, truly, these people are out of ideas. And so people have been feeling a certain way about this live-action remake the entire time, but I would say it really burst back onto the mainstream because Disney, just a few days ago, had this expo. At their D23 2024, which is a bit of a mouthful, exposition, they reveal, you know, Moana 2, a live action Snow White, a spin-off of a different show, a Star Wars spin-off, another sequel. This might actually be original. The fact that I am literally surprised to see an original title says a lot about the current state of Disney. But honestly, I think Snow White is probably the one catching the most flack right now. And it's safe to say the majority of that flack concerns the actress that Disney has cast as the lead role. So Snow White is being played by none other than Rachel Zegler. I haven't seen Rachel Zegler in anything, so I can't speak to her acting ability. I have, however, seen her a lot just outside of her projects, and she seems like a pretty cool dude. And so the controversy, if you even want to call it that, is around the fact that Rachel Zegler, according to some people, is not white enough to play Snow White. Certain people seem very upset that this woman has, I guess, literally any visible melanin whatsoever. And you know, honestly, I don't think it's just skin deep. Rachel's ancestry is Colombian and Polish. Colombia is in South America, so she has that Latin American heritage. She identifies herself as a white Latina. I've seen her call herself that across multiple interviews, but people seem to really take issue with the Latina part. That, in conjunction with the fact that even though she's only 23, she is seriously popping off right now, have really just turned into this perfect awful storm of nonsense where people hate to see her winning. People just hate to see women win in general, but if she doesn't look exactly the way we want her to, it's just over at that point, I guess. Sure, this woman may have one of the most like Disney princess-esque faces I have ever seen on an actual real human person, but it's not enough in a universe where I guess people expected Snow White to be the color of paper or something. To seriously be mad about this is just like Britney Spears was truly ahead of her time.
It's just a movie. It's pretend. You're an adult. You should know that.
But let's be real, you're not really upset at her skin tone. You're upset at the fact that she's Colombian. But see, people can't just come out and say that, right? So they have to have a reason for why they're being so nasty to this woman online, as you're going to see shortly. So I guess the current working theory is that Rachel Zegler secretly hates Snow White, and that's why she is the wrong part for this movie.
But I saw the logo and I went, that's my name. Snow White's up there. And I cried my eyes out.
What was it like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag?
I love that description. It's perfect.
I think that's a pretty typical reaction for people who hate things, right? Is that you're so happy to see yourself as a part of it that you burst into tears.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
People are pretending to be so upset about this. You would not believe how many people these words have angered. I think if Disney was to remake the original Snow White shot for shot, that would be a boring movie. Snow White as a character doesn't really have that much agency in the original movie. I think one of the most active things Snow White does in this film is clean a house. So I kind of see how someone could look at this and say, maybe there's like more of a story here. Seriously, if you read the description for this movie, you can see that a bunch of things just happen to Snow White. She's not really doing much, and it's safe to say if you tell a story that way today, it's not going to go over well. Also, considering a major plot point is when the prince kisses her when she's not conscious, I think it's safe to say certain changes were in order. But no, actually, you can see this is the most replayed part of the video. People are genuinely upset that they have gone in a more modern direction with this film.
And the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
And if you're asking yourself, like, wait, what kind of people could possibly be mad about that? Probably the exact kind of people you're thinking about. I guess Twitter accounts like End Wokeness, which apparently has 2.8 million followers. It just gets worse and worse. The new Snow White says that the prince was a creepy stalker and suggests that all the scenes of the prince should be cut. She's a walking PR disaster for Disney.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
If this does not count as weird, I do not know what does. Like, for whoever is running this nonsense account to pretend to be outraged at this fact is sending me, of course the story is weird. We don't have to pretend like the things she's saying in these interviews don't make any sense, or she's overreacting, or she hates Snow White, just so we can make fun of her for who she is, really.
And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
To take that out of context and just say she suggests that all of the scenes of the prince could be cut, she's just clearly referencing the fact that movies change due to higher ups all the time because it is in fact Hollywood. It takes so much mental gymnastics to hate people. It's crazy. Rachel Zegler is not a walking PR disaster for Disney. She is just some woman who seems really excited about what they've done with Snow White. But nah, my dad and Walt Disney would be turning in their graves over woke Snow White remake. So says the son of the original film's director. And he's apparently accused Disney bosses of insulting the 1937 classic and destroying his father's creation. Also, I'm really glad that he talked about destroying his father's creation because I want to point this out. Anytime this remake thing comes up and people get really, really upset over the fact that it exists, as if it's somehow, I don't know, overwriting the original, y'all do realize that the original still exists, right? People genuinely act like if you make a new version of a movie, then the original movie just spontaneously combusts, and anybody who has a copy of that movie dies instantly. Like, what do you mean? The original movie still exists. If you want to watch what is frankly a very beautifully animated film and pretty much a cutting edge for its time, go watch it. Disney will be happy to allow you to create a free trial for Disney Plus. That sounded like a sponsorship, but I really do not mess with Disney Plus. I mean, I have it, unfortunately, but I don't support it. Does that make sense? But yeah, this 91-year-old son has a lot to say about this film. Wait, 91 is like even older than the movie. That is crazy. Goals. But hopefully when I get there, I'm not this lame, honestly. I'm afraid of what they're going to do with the early films. Their thoughts are just so radical now, he says of Disney. They change the stories. They change the thought processes of the characters. They just aren't the original stories anymore. They're making up new woke things, and I'm just not into any of that. Yo, new woke thing just dropped. It's called women having agency. I'm sorry, this is legitimately funny. Like, it is actually funny to me. It probably shouldn't be, but this is just where I am today. But that's not all people were mad about. Actually, I have to be honest, this next one's kind of weird. So this set photo leaked and you can see the Seven Dwarves. which all seem to be played by people without dwarfism. Almost all of them seem to be played by people without dwarfism, which is very confusing to me. In fact, I was so very confused that I was like, nah, these cannot be real. This is not a real photo, right? But actually, the story has been updated to reflect that after Disney's US spokesperson initially declared the photos published by the Daily Mail were fake, the studio later said the photos were from the production but were not official photos. So I guess even Disney realized that the optics of this are crazy. I'm not really sure what would motivate them to do this. So I am confused over the actors because I guess in my mind, they don't really fit the parts. However, you can probably imagine that the same people who were angry at Snow White for not being white enough, according to them and their definition, were angry about this photo for a different reason. Can you maybe guess in your mind what different reason there is to be upset about this? Is anything really jumping out at you? Snow White and the Seven politically correct companions? Pictures of live action remakes show stand-in princess walking with diverse band of merry men and women. Fellas, is it politically correct to be black? Meet the cast of Disney's new woke Snow White film. Snow White is Colombian now, and the Seven Dwarves look more like the 6 normal-sized hipster. Okay, this is just so extreme. And one dwarf from Portland. Snow White no longer has skin as white as snow. Absolutely ridiculous. But you know, instead of listening to all of these people be mad about this for some reason, one bit of criticism, and this is actually a bit older, but it cropped back up recently because like I said, the Snow White situation has been going on for a while. The actor, Peter Dinklage, who's been in everything from Game of Thrones to The Hunger Games to, most importantly, Elf, he actually does have dwarfism. And before Disney's weird set photo leaked and we realized that there were 6 people without it playing these characters, he already seemed like he was really just not vibing with this movie at all. In 2022, he said, "Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way and you're still making that backward story about 7 dwarves living in a cave together. What are you doing, man?" Now, my first thought when I read this was, oh no, not Peter Dinklage. I thought he was doing the like anti-woke thing that we're all doing, I guess. But in that same statement, he said he meant literally no offense to anyone, and he sent all love and respect to the actress and to the people who thought they were doing the right thing. So this, I'm actually really happy about. I went into this low-key concerned, but I don't think he's playing into this whole we all hate Rachel Zegler for no reason nonsense at all. I actually really appreciate the fact that he stood up for her. But nah, he was mad. He was mad. He said, "Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough." He added that he would enthusiastically support a more sensitive retelling of the 85-year-old film with a cool progressive spin on it, but wasn't otherwise convinced. So I do not believe that Peter Dinklage is an op, which is a sentence I never thought I would say before today. I am a little bit unclear on where he's coming from because I don't think the 7 dwarves live in a cave. I think the whole point was they lived in the house that Snow White cleaned for them. They might have worked in a cave, but regardless, I just want to point out, I am not here to tell a person who has dwarfism how to feel about this movie, which has influenced probably the majority of people alive right now's perception of dwarfism. Whether he was being uncharitable about the original movie or not, Peter Dinklage has every right to feel however he wants to about it. And I'm very much more willing to place stock in his opinion than that of people pretending to be upset. I have no idea what kind of frustration Peter Dinklage has faced in Hollywood, but the fact that I can't really name any other mainstream Hollywood actors that have dwarfism probably indicates there's a lot of frustration there. So even if I don't know exactly what about the story stood out to him in a negative way, I absolutely believe there would be stereotypes there that would reinforce that I would have no way of knowing because I simply am not educated. I haven't even seen enough representation in media of this. But I guess Disney's creative interpretation of this was not hiring people with dwarfism ? To avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, we are taking a different approach with these 7 characters and have been consulting with members of the dwarfism community, a spokesperson said. We look forward to sharing more as the film heads into production after a lengthy development period. And, you know, I can't speak for Peter Dinklage, but something just tells me that's probably not what he meant. I don't feel like his statements were saying, Disney, if I see one person with dwarfism in your movie, it's on sight, but I guess that's where we are. And you may be thinking, well, D'Angelo, technically there was like that one person with dwarfism in the movie, right? Let's just say that after this photo leak, Disney went in another different direction, and you are genuinely not prepared for how cursed this is. Oh man. So gone are any human beings at all. This is a leaked footage, I think, from that D23-24 Expo, where we can see the dwarves have been replaced by this. I'm sorry. I hate this. I don't know if I'm like not supposed to or supposed to, but right now, I can only be honest with you. Something is wrong here. There's something about these eyes that I don't trust. Like before he smiles, he looks so soulless, and then he smiles and his eyes don't really change. I think I hate it. Like, why is this actually giving the Polar Express, but somehow 5 times worse because it's coming out now? I genuinely don't even think the Polar Express was as bad as what I've just seen. But yeah, seeing as how people are upset that Rachel Zegler is playing Snow White despite not being the color of literal snow, they're upset about the changes that have been made to the story, even though the story itself was just begging to be changed because, gosh, there was some weird stuff there. And seeing as Disney clearly has no idea how to handle the Seven Dwarves part of the title, this movie is a PR disaster, and it's not any singular person's fault. But when the trailer came out for this, people were going to tout, and you had a bunch of people coming together for a bunch of different reasons, some of them valid, others were just absolutely unhinged. So let's try to sort some of those out. Where's the white in Snow White? Stop appropriating my culture. I think it's safe to say this one's unhinged. Does Disney know what white is? I mean, do you know what white is though? Because y'all seem really hung up on that word when, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, Rachel Zegler is white. That actually adds a level of maybe not humor, but something that you are really outraged about Snow White being played by a white woman. Who's the fairest of them all? It's Snow Brown with skin as dark as tree bark. This person has never seen a tree. Oh my God. We're out here telling people to touch grass. Go outside at all. Look out the window. Google grass in the hopes that you maybe will see a tree. What are you on? Maybe don't ever hire Rachel Zegler again for literally anything. And always remember, free Disney from the woke mind virus. Period. They ate with this comment. They ate with that. Period. They ate. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. The witch is whiter than Snow White. Y'all aren't even trying with these comments. Let's just see what else people are saying. Oh, okay. So apparently Rachel Zegler is ugly. Note to Disney, if you want to make a movie about a queen being jealous of the princess's beauty, then make the princess beautiful. It's happened. We have reached a level of brain rot where we are now pretending that this individual is not conventionally attractive. Like, if this is not showing you how hard people have to reach to have something negative to say about this woman, I genuinely don't know what is. If she wasn't conventionally attractive, she still wouldn't deserve literally any of this. However, this is just nonsensical because you honestly think Disney would have allowed her anywhere near this set if she did not look like this? Y'all got me messed up. The only thing I don't understand is why would Gal Gadot, who's playing, you know, the evil witch, be fearful of the beauty of Rachel Zegler? Because that's how the movie goes. The original movie. Have you not actually watched it? The same people who are so upset at people for apparently not getting the point of this movie don't seem to remember this movie very well. The evil queen or witch or whatever she was, because I haven't watched this in a while, was objectively a baddie. She was bad as hell, honestly. Why are you shook? I don't even know what the mirror was on in the original movie, honestly. The mirror kind of set her up, and I think that's the same thing that's happening in this new movie. To be like, oh, Gal Gadot is too pretty to ever want to look like Rachel Zegler, question mark, you'd have totally missed the point of the film. While simultaneously claiming that Disney has missed the point of the film, which you have not yet watched. Also, speaking of missing points, I also see a lot of people dragging Peter Dinklage. Nice job, Peter Dinklage. They made animated dwarfs in a live action movie instead of hiring real people. Very progressive. This is just such a stupid comment because I read you what this man said, and nowhere did any of his commentary indicate that he did not want to see actors with dwarfism absolutely killing it in this movie. How is this Peter's fault? Y'all will literally just say anything to frame being very progressive as a bad thing. The moment Peter Dinklage stood up and said no dwarfs will ever act in Hollywood and got 7 literal dwarfs fired was truly an Oscar-worthy scene. Sent chills down my spine. Like, I know this person is joking in some way, even though they obviously have a point that they're making here. But if you knew anything about the situation, you would know that actually, technically, people without dwarfism were fired. These people were fired. Literally, everybody in this situation lost, whether that was Peter Dinklage, the actors with dwarfism, the actors without it. But to pin this on him is absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? Some of these comments I do agree with. They remade one animated movie into another animated movie. Seriously, if you just scrub through this trailer, there is so much like bad CGI. I think it's pushing the limits of what live action even means. What's the point of doing a live action remake of an animated movie if you're just going to animate half the characters anyway? I truly don't believe like everybody who finds this movie to be kind of lame is a bad person or like thinks that Rachel Zegler is awful, because that's truly not the case. I'll be honest, that first clip looked like it came straight out of an AI prompt. Yeah, it kind of really does. It's just, this movie does not look good. Like, I don't even mean looks bad as in I don't think it's going to be a good movie. It just looks bad. It's bad to look at. The Snow White dress looks like one of those itchy kid party dresses. I just feel like they could have gone so much harder with this. That wig is crazy as hell. They made that poor girl look like Lord Farquaad. This one's kind of hard to defend. But I find the framing of this comment sympathetic towards Rachel Zegler, and that's definitely where I find myself as well. But trust me, people who have legitimate concerns with the movie are few and far between. Most people are like this. Thank Peter Dinklage for not having real actors in the story. Gal Gadot doesn't even need a mirror to know who's the most beautiful. End of story. And actually, this seems like a good time to bring up a beef that I have, like a really specific beef, because so many of these people are on YouTube. I can't even watch Disney related content. Let me know if this is real though. For me personally, I find that if I click into a video that is about Star Wars or Disney or something maybe that's like kids movies, something like that, I almost want to say 9 times out of 10, it's this. It's not somebody who actually cares about the thing they're talking about. It's just somebody who wants to wage war against like all women, people of color, any sort of diversity. Like, they label it all DEI and they claim everything is woke. And I'm just like, bro, your entire career is just pretending to care about kids media so you can complain about women existing? I swear to God, the state of like Disney, Star Wars, and kids movie related content on YouTube is so dire. And I know there's probably some banger creators out there, but it is so difficult to find them amongst just the droves of this. And even though there are aspects of this which are objectively funny, a lot of this just really isn't. And the core of the issue isn't really funny at all, because Rachel Zegler is a real person. I personally think she's been handling this all super well. Last year, she tweeted, "Extremely appreciative of the love I feel from those defending me online, but please don't tag me in the nonsensical discourse about my casting. I really, truly do not want to see it." It is absurd to type just the nastiest stuff you can think of towards somebody who, at the end of the day, is a real person. And if you're thinking like, oh, come on, D'Angelo, like people are calling her brown, is that the nastiest thing? No, I'm talking about the people who are literally sending her death threats. Someone should kill you, says this person on Twitter. To which Rachel very comedically points out that she's playing Juliet in like a production of Romeo and Juliet, so technically she will be dying a lot anyway. Fun fact, I will be dying 8 times a week on Broadway this fall. Get your tickets, Lee. Also at FBI. I really love this response, because the flex of like, you're mad at me, but I'm literally on Broadway is incredible. Like, she just seems funny. She just seems like a sweet person. I don't really know her, but from what I've seen, nothing she's done could justify even a fraction of the way people are treating this woman online. Also, at FBI is so funny. This is really just like a different font of the same nonsense that everybody tried to pull with Halle Bailey playing Ariel in the Little Mermaid remake. And guess what? Maybe the Little Mermaid remake did not need to exist. Maybe this Snow White remake really doesn't seem like it needs to exist, and Disney has botched almost every single part of it. But Disney is a corporation. They are a company, they are a group, and so directing your ire towards the women involved, it just really signals to me that people aren't really discussing these movies because they care about the movies at all. It's just a very convenient platform for you to pretend like you're attacking these people for a specific reason, but we all know the real reason, and I don't have to sit here and spell it out. Guess what? Snow White does look terrible. This movie looks really bad, but that is Disney's fault, and to blame Rachel Zegler or Peter Dinklage is nonsensical. Y'all need to touch grass, or as we've seen, Google a tree, which is just like a new level of terminally online. But that's my take. Dave's take is that he should have been the one to play Snow White because he is literally the color of paper. And I've actually found that pretty hard to argue against, but I'm working on it. And as for your take, I am quite curious. I mean, this is the part where I think a layman would tell you to subscribe, leave a comment, and like the video. But I am going to ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and leave your feedback, because this is, of course, a 100% completely, totally, maybe not all the way, but somewhat mostly not unaccredited university that I'm running here. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. We are totally legit, probably. But thus concludes the lecture. Honestly, whether you see me in 24 hours or in 24 months is anyone's guess. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you all have a very woke, politically correct day.